I'm going to show you how to send REST requests. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, I'm Watrous from VVork. If this is your first time here and you want to learn about automating, programming, and monitoring in VMware environments, you're in the right place. Start now by subscribing and click the bell so that you don't miss a thing.
This is part 3 in a 10-part video series in which we're exploring how to make REST API calls. In this video, I'm going to show you how to send REST requests. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are going to be some of you out there who are watching this video because you want to know how to do REST calls from a program. So whether you're using Ruby or Python or Perl or PowerShell or JavaScript, or not just these languages here on the screen, but lots of languages support making REST calls. So if you want to know how to do that, I'm going to get you started to show you a bit about that, but we can tackle this in more detail in later videos. So let's take a look first at PowerShell. As you can see here, we have some PowerShell code. Just to let you know, this PowerShell code is actually from a web page. Let's go take a look at that web page. All right, as you can see, this web page is from the fine folks at Twilio. Twilio, if you haven't met them, allow you to programmatically make calls, programmatically send text messages, and other communication capabilities, all from Twilio. We'll talk more about them later on, but for right now, let's just focus on this article that they have provided. I'll put this URL into the YouTube description, or you can just copy it from the screen here. But as you can see, this document gives you information about how you can create a PowerShell script that acts as a REST client to send a text message via Twilio. In order to do that, again, these simple 16 lines of code gets the job done. Now, this code is written in PowerShell, and I do not intend for this to be a full-blown lesson in PowerShell. If you want to program in PowerShell, go someplace else to learn PowerShell. But even if you don't know PowerShell, we can see, based on things we've already learned, we can see a lot of what's going on in this specific code. So I'd like to start by jumping to some specific things that are very much in line with what we've learned so far, and then we can take a look at some of the other details. So notice here, if you will, on line number 7, we'll get back to these preceding lines in a bit, but in line number 7, it says they're setting up a URL. Well, that rings a bell. Every single one of the REST requests that we've defined has said call a particular HTTP method, and additionally, you specified a URL. So this here is the URL that we're going to use in order to send a message via Twilio. Now, as you can see, one of the things in this line is a variable called $SID. With Twilio, by the way, go to Twilio.com and create yourself a free account. When you do so, you will get an account that has an account SID. I'm not certain exactly what the S stands for, but ID is obviously your identifier. So you can go to Twilio.com, create yourself an account, and on the console of the Twilio dashboard, down towards the bottom, you will see your account SID. Additionally, you will see your auth token, and on that same dashboard at Twilio, you'll also see the phone number that they have assigned to you.
What's all this ruckus about cloud? Do I want it? Do I need it? What is it anyway? Come join me, Mr. Fullstack. I'll tell you everything you need to know. Check the URL out down below and hurry up, train's final station.
Here in this code, we're going to need to substitute in the account SID. And that's what you can see us doing up here in line number 2. In line number 2, they're setting up that $SID variable so that we can use it later on in line number 7. So one way or another, you need to pass in. You could hard code the SID into line number 7, but chances are you want to have some sort of variable to make your PowerShell script more flexible. So line number 7 is our URL. That's half of what we always need to specify. The other thing that we always need to specify is which HTTP method. Do we want to do a GET? Do we want to do a PUT? Do we want to do a POST, a DELETE, a PATCH, a HEAD? What do we want to do? Well, that's what you can see going on down in line number 15. So notice in line 15, it says that the method we're going to use is POST. So $URL, so there's the URL, dash method POST. We want to do a POST. Now, in order to do that, in PowerShell, they provide you a commandlet called invoke-web request. So line 15, invoke-web request, $URL, dash method POST, and the following portion of line number 15 is passing in credentials. The credentials can actually be passed into Twilio different ways. Here, in this case, the way they're passing the credentials in is by passing in a combination of the account SID and the authentication token encoded using base64 encoding. We'll talk in an upcoming video about how to do basic authentication. With basic authentication, you take your account name, or in this case, account SID, colon, and then your password, or in this case, your auth token, and you base64 encode that. Here in PowerShell, you don't have to worry about all those details. As long as you say use basic, it's going to do the encoding for you. So what else do we see going on here? In here, lines 11 and 12 are setting up the credentials so that we'll be able to use them later on in line 15. And line 8 is actually quite important. Line 8 is setting up a variable called $params. It's setting up a hash table that contains information or data that's describing what we want to do. So in this hash table, 2 equals phone number says this is the phone number that we want the message sent to. From equals is going to be presumably your Twilio phone number that they assign you. And then body is equal to whatever you want the text message to be. So again, that's a quick run through of this code. There's more to it than just that. But if you take a look at this web page and read it in detail, you're going to learn all sorts of nifty things about Twilio. But more to our point, you're going to learn things about how to create PowerShell scripts that can make REST API calls. Now, I'm sure there's loads of other things that you could do in that vein, and there are loads of websites that will explain to you how you can do this in PowerShell. But I wanted to give you a glimpse of how you could do REST API calls from a PowerShell script. All right, now that we know how to make REST calls from a PowerShell script, what if you're using JavaScript? How would you do it there? Well, if you go to the website that I'm displaying here, this is a great post that they have here. It not only describes how to create a JavaScript REST client, it also shows you how to create a REST server using JavaScript and Node.js. If you'd like to, go to this page and read through it. It's fairly well written. But to help accelerate things for you, I have created over in Postman a collection. You can get the collection from my GitLab repository. I've created a collection called freecodecamp.org. And if you import that collection and go to its description, it has a URL to the web page I was just showing you. And I've provided you here a very abbreviated list of instructions for how to get a REST server up and running. As you can see here, step 0 is to install Node.js and NPM, which you've already done earlier in this video, so you shouldn't need to do step 0. But in the rest of this here, what you're going to be doing is setting up a REST server, again, using Node.js in conjunction with JavaScript. Now, this video is getting a bit long, so I'm not going to go into all the details here. I think by now you have enough information to follow along with the instructions in this article. Plus, I've provided you this collection here. So I think between the combination of those plus your intelligence, you should be able to figure it out. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you'd really like to see a video going through this whole process from start to finish, let me know down in the YouTube comments. Join me in the next video, and I'll show you how to locate REST API documentation.